The sky over Earth was clear only minutes ago. People in the cities walked to work, children played in schoolyards, and the world felt normal. But then, without any warning, it changed. The light from the sun dimmed, turning into a strange, bloody red. At first, many thought it was an eclipse. The shadow was too big. It was far too big. High above the planet, massive shapes moved in silence. They were not clouds. They were ships. Alien ships, dark, metallic, and so large they could be seen from the ground without any telescope. Each one was bigger than the tallest building humans had ever made. They moved slowly, blocking more of the sun, until the entire sky looked like it was bleeding. In the streets, people stopped walking. Cars braked in the middle of roads. Phones pointed upward to take pictures. But the fear quickly replaced curiosity. The shapes in the sky were not just here to watch. In a military command center buried deep underground, alarms screamed. Screens lit up with red warnings. Satellite feeds showed the same thing from every continent, dozens of alien warships entering Earth's orbit at once. Communication lines buzzed with frantic voices. World leaders demanded answers. Scientists confirmed what no one wanted to hear. They did not send a signal before arriving. This was not a peaceful visit. Above the Pacific Ocean, one of the alien ships opened a section in its lower hull. Something glowed inside, a light so bright it made the clouds shine like they were on fire. Then the first attack came. A beam of pure energy cut through the sky, striking the ocean. The water exploded into steam, leaving a massive crater where waves once moved. In less than 10 minutes, other beams followed. Major cities around the world lit up in flames. New York, Shanghai, Paris, Johannesburg. The aliens targeted communication centers, military bases, and power plants. It was a coordinated strike, precise and merciless. Inside the command center, General Marcus Raines slammed his fist onto the table. They're not here for negotiations. They're here to wipe us out. His voice was cold, but there was a shadow in his eyes, the shadow of something he had been preparing for years. On another level of the facility, hidden behind layers of security doors, a dark hangar sat silent. It was not on any public record. Even most military officers didn't know it existed. Inside it rested a ship unlike anything Earth had ever built. Surface was a deep, black alloy that seemed to swallow light. Strange glowing lines ran across its hull, pulsing faintly as if the ship itself was alive. This was Project Dominion. It had been created in secret after a mysterious message was picked up from deep space 10 years ago. The message had warned of a coming invasion. It had also contained strange fragments of alien technology, blueprints far beyond human science. Only a handful of people on Earth had seen those blueprints. They were used to build a warship that could fight something far stronger than humanity had ever faced. But it had one rule. The Dominion was never to be used unless Earth was at the edge of total destruction. Now, that moment had come. In the hangar, Captain Elias Kane stood before the ship. He had been trained for this day, but part of him had hoped it would never come. His crew rushed to their stations, faces tight with fear, but movements sharp and precise. Over the loudspeakers, General Raines' voice came through. Captain Kane, the aliens have destroyed our first defense lines. You are clear to launch. This is not a mission. This is survival. Do whatever it takes. Kane nodded silently. He turned to his pilot, Lieutenant Aria Holt. Bring her online. The ship awoke with a low hum that seemed to vibrate through the floor. Lights flickered along its hull. Energy shields came online. Deep in its core, weapons powered up for the first time outside of a test chamber. Outside the hangar, the alien fleet moved closer. More cities burned. The red glow in the sky deepened until the world looked like it was drowning in blood. Launch sequence ready, Holt said, her voice steady but low. The massive hangar doors began to open, revealing the blackened sky above. The ground trembled as the Dominion's engines roared to life. Let's give them a reason to regret coming here, Kane said. The ship lifted smoothly into the air, rising above the underground base. As it climbed higher, the crew could see the scale of the destruction. Fires burned in every direction. Entire sections of coastline were gone. Civilian ships tried to flee the harbors, but alien drones hunted them without mercy. Target lock, Holt called out. One of the alien warships is moving toward our position. Kane's eyes narrowed. Good. Let's introduce ourselves. The Dominion surged forward, breaking through the lower atmosphere. For a moment, everything was silent. Space stretched. Before them, cold, dark, and deadly. Then the alien warship filled their view. It was vast, shaped like a blade, with jagged edges that seemed to cut the starlight. Its weapons began to glow, preparing to fire. Fire the railgun, Kane ordered. The Dominion's main weapon activated with a deafening vibration. A slug of metal, traveling faster than sound could carry, tore through space and struck the alien ship before it could react. The impact was silent in the vacuum, but the explosion was bright enough to blind sensors. The alien vessel split apart, its pieces scattering into the void. The crew stared in stunned silence. They had trained for years, but seeing it happen, for real, was something else. Enemy destroyed, the weapons officer reported, still sounding surprised. Kane didn't celebrate. He looked at the scanners. More ships were turning toward them now, not retreating, not afraid. They were closing in, fast. They know about us, Kane said quietly. They came here for more than Earth. They came for the Dominion. Outside, the alien fleet began to move as one, tightening their formation. The red light of Earth's burning sky reflected off their armor. The first battle was over. The real war was about to begin. The hangar's shadow was far behind now. The Dominion cut through the thin edge of Earth's atmosphere, leaving a streak of burning light in its wake. Inside, the crew felt the heavy pull fade as they entered the weightlessness of space. One spoke for a long moment. They all stared at the screens ahead, at the black shape of their own ship reflected against the void. It didn't look like a human vessel. It looked like something born from deep space, something meant to kill. This was the ship that should not exist. Its armor was a strange, light-emitting alloy, smooth in some places, jagged in others, like scars that had been designed on purpose. Glowing blue lines ran along its body, not for decoration, but as part of its systems, conduits carrying power so immense that no normal material could contain it. Somewhere inside, a reactor pulsed with energy stolen from alien technology. Even the engines didn't use normal fuel. It bent space itself, slipping between distances instead of crossing them. The crew strapped in as Captain Elias Kane studied the tactical display. Around them, the alien fleet formed an invisible wall. The Dominion was fast, but the enemy ships were faster than any human craft, except this one. Multiple contacts, closing fast. Lieutenant Arya Holt reported. They're not running. They're coming straight for us. Kane's eyes narrowed. They know what we are. They're testing us. Down in the engineering bay, Chief Mechanic Daniel Voss checked the power levels. Main cannon's hot, shields are stable. I can push her harder, but if the core overheats, push her, Kane interrupted. If they get past us, Earth doesn't stand a chance. In the back of the bridge, the Dominion's AI came online. Its voice was calm, almost human, but with a strange edge. Captain Sensors confirmed these vessels matched the design in the 10-year-old warning message. They are hunters. Their task is extermination. They will not stop until you are destroyed. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. No one liked the way the AI said you instead of we. The alien ships broke formation, moving in perfect synchronization. They surrounded the Dominion from 3 directions, each one larger than a city block. Energy weapons began to charge, glowing. With deadly light, railgun ready, the weapons officer said. Target the lead ship, Kane ordered. The Dominion's main gun fired again, a slug moving so fast it blurred across the display. It struck the alien vessel dead center. The explosion ripped the ship apart in total silence. But the others didn't scatter.
Ow.
They didn't even slow. They're adapting, the AI said flatly. They've seen that weapon before. They are shifting tactics. The alien ships unleashed a swarm, hundreds of smaller craft, darting forward like a living cloud. They moved too fast for the railgun to target. Switch to graviton pulse, Kane ordered. The weapon charged, sending out a ripple that made space itself seem to bend. The swarm shattered instantly, crushed under forces no living creature could survive. Bodies and broken ships drifted in the void. The crew barely had time to breathe before the AI spoke again. Warning. Multiple enemy signatures entering from high orbit. Estimate, 3 minutes to contact. They are deploying a scanning net. Kane frowned. A what? They are mapping our ship? They want its design. If they succeed, they will build something to destroy it. The bridge fell silent. The Dominion was humanity's one true advantage. If the aliens understood how it worked, Earth was doomed. Kane turned to Holt. Get us out of their net now. The Dominion's engines flared, and the ship shot forward like a spear through the dark. Alien ships gave chase, their weapons flashing in the distance, in the crew's minds. The truth was sinking in. This wasn't a random invasion. The aliens had come for something very specific, and that something was them. The alien ships closed in like a tightening noose. The Dominion flew low over Earth's upper atmosphere, the curve of the planet beneath them glowing with fire from the cities. Still burning? Captain Kane's voice was calm, but his grip on the command chair was tight. They're forcing us into a kill zone, the AI warned. Their formation will trap us in exactly 40 seconds. On the tactical screen, 3 massive enemy warships blocked the path ahead, while 2 more raced in from behind. Between them, dozens of smaller craft darted like wasps, weaving a web of energy fire to keep the Dominion from slipping away. Then we don't slip away, Kane said quietly. We break it. The crew exchanged quick, tense looks. The Dominion had never been tested against this many targets at once. Railgun locked on lead ship. The weapons officer called. Kane didn't hesitate. Fire. The shot tore through the void, striking the alien warship at the exact moment it powered its own main cannon. The blast ripped the ship in 2. The chain reaction blowing the fragments outward in a cloud of molten metal, 1 down. But the others didn't retreat. They surged forward, firing beams that curved unnaturally in the vacuum, tracking the Dominion like they were alive. The shields flared and groaned under the impacts. Shields at 70%. Voss shouted from engineering. Bring the graviton pulse online, Kane barked. The Dominion's hull lights flared bright blue. Bone-vibrating hum filled the bridge. Then the pulse erupted outward, invisible but devastating. The smaller alien craft collapsed in on themselves, metal and flesh crumpling like paper before being flung into the void. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then Holt's voice cut in, sharp and urgent. Captain, scanners picking up a massive energy surge coming from the warship at our rear. Kane turned to the AI. Talk to me. It is a precision scanner, the AI replied. They are not targeting our weapons. They're targeting the ship's core and our structural data.
Yes.
They complete this scan, they will know exactly how to dismantle us. On the screen, the alien ship's central spire glowed like a lighthouse in the dark. Energy waves rippled toward the Dominion. Kane made his decision in an instant. Bring the main cannon to bear. Forget maneuvering. Hit them before they finish. The Dominion pivoted sharply, its massive hull groaning under the sudden turn. The railgun charged, power levels climbing dangerously high. Captain, you're overloading it, Voss warned. I know, Kane said. The shot fired brighter, faster, and far more violent than before. It tore through the enemy warship's shield and core in the same heartbeat. The alien ship didn't just explode, it vanished in a violent flash, as if erased from existence. The bridge filled with the smell of burning circuits. Panels sparked. The crew coughed through the smoke, but the scanner showed the truth. The threat was gone. Kane didn't relax. He looked at the tactical map, at the dozen alien vessels still prowling the edge of engagement. They didn't attack again immediately. Instead, they slowed. Watching. They're not retreating, Holt said softly. No, Kane replied. Eyes fixed on the alien formation. They're learning. And in that moment, every person on the Dominion understood the enemy wasn't just powerful. They were intelligent, adaptive, and patient. The first kill had been theirs. The next move would not be so easy. The Dominion moved through space, its engines humming steadily as the crew caught their breath after the fierce battle. But the quiet was only the calm before the storm. The alien fleet was not beaten yet. In fact, it was planning something worse suddenly. A strange signal crackled through the ship's communication system. It was a message, but not in any language the crew recognized. The alien transmission was sharp, urgent, a clear warning about the Dominion itself. They called it the threat that must be erased first. Captain Elias Kane frowned. They want us gone before they attack Earth again. The ship's AI scanned the message and replied, "The enemy has sent a false beacon designed to lure us deeper into their territory." Despite the warning, the alien trap was already in motion. Sensors detected an alien vessel fleeing nearby. Its engines were damaged, barely moving through space. It seemed like an easy target. Lieutenant Arya Holt looked to Kane. "Shall we pursue?" Kane hesitated, but then nodded. "Can't let them escape to warn others." The Dominion surged forward, chasing the crippled ship toward an asteroid field on the edge of the system. At first, it seemed like a routine hunt. But as they entered the asteroid belt, the true danger revealed itself. Alien ships hidden among the rocks sprang to life, surrounding the Dominion like a net closing tight. Ambush. The weapons officer shouted. Energy blasts erupted from all sides. The Dominion's shields flared under the attack. The AI calculated the odds: overwhelming enemy numbers, limited maneuvering room, and heavy firepower. "We need to activate." "Protocol 0, the AI said calmly. Kane's heart sank. Protocol 0 was a secret weapon, powerful but forbidden. Its use risked destroying parts of space itself. "Do it," Kane ordered. "We have no choice." The ship trembled as energy. Built in its core, a pulse shot out, bending the fabric of space around them. Enemy ships exploded instantly, swallowed by a sudden void. The battle ended almost as quickly as it began. The asteroid field was silent once more, but as the crew recovered, Kane knew the war had changed. The enemy feared the Dominion and would stop at nothing to destroy it. The silence after the trap felt heavy. The Dominion's crew worked fast to repair damage and scan the area. But a new message came through. Not a threat this time, but a warning. The signal came from deep inside alien space. It's their homeworld. It was a message clear and cold. The aliens admitted defeat in this battle, but promised that their invasion had only just begun. They threatened Earth with a larger, unstoppable force waiting in the shadows. Captain Kane stood before the bridge crew. It was a weight of the message pressing down on everyone. They want us to be afraid. But fear is a weapon they can't use against us. Orders came quickly. The Dominion was to take the fight beyond Earth's orbit. They had to destroy the alien command ships before the larger invasion. Fleet could arrive. The journey took them through a dangerous wormhole, a shortcut through space-time. As the ship entered the swirling tunnel, strange energy rippled over the hull. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Strange creatures, neither machine nor organic, clung to the ship's surface. They tried to break in. Marines rushed to repel the boarders. The fight was brutal, but brief. The creatures retreated, leaving scars on the ship's armor. As calm returned, Kane studied the data. The aliens were desperate. They feared the Dominion more than they feared humanity itself. "We have their attention," Kane said. "Now we have to make sure we're ready for what comes next." The Dominion slipped through the wormhole and emerged into a dark, eerie space. All around them floated wreckage-broken ships, both alien and unknown, drifting silently like ghosts. The crew felt a chill even inside their armored ship. Ahead loomed a massive structure, the alien hive. It was a giant, organic-looking fortress made of strange metal and living tissue, glowing faintly with an unholy light. Sensors showed thousands of enemy ships gathering inside. This was the heart of the alien command. Captain Kane ordered the ship to cloak itself. The Dominion's hull shimmered and vanished from most sensors. Slowly, they entered the hive, moving like a shadow in the dark. Inside, the ship's scanners revealed something terrifying. The aliens were controlled by a massive central Minda, living brain that ruled every ship and soldier like a spider controls its web. Destroying it could end the war in a single blow. The AI suggested a risky plan, suicide attack to take down the central mind. But Kane shook his head. There has to be another way. We're not throwing away this ship or its crew. The crew prepared for a dangerous mission inside the hive. Every second counted. The alien mind sensed their presence and started sending out psychic waves to confuse and disable them. The Dominion's shields flickered under the attack. But the crew held firm. Kane stared ahead, knowing this mission could change the fate of Earth forever. The hive shook like a living thing as the Dominion cut deeper into its heart. Light from the ship painted the walls in cold white. Around them, the hive breathed slow, heavy pulses that made the whole structure feel alive. Every sound inside, the Dominion sounded too loud. Footsteps, beating hearts, the hum of engines. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The crew watched the scans. The central mind glowed ahead, a wrecking ball of power and thought. It sat inside a chamber larger than a city, wrapped in metal and living tissue. Threads ran from it like spider veins, connecting to every ship, every soldier, every drone. It pulsed with signals that felt like a storm. The Dominion moved like a ghost, cloak held, sensors careful. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge and breathed slow. He had led men into darkness before, but this felt different. This was not merely a battle of guns. This was a war on the mind. The AI warned in the same flat voice it always used. Psychic interference increasing. Crew cognitive load at 30%. Recommendation: isolate critical teams and route neural dampeners. Kane nodded. Do it. Keep our heads clear. He looked at the faces around him. They were young, old, tired, fierce. He felt the weight of each life pressing down. They picked their path through the hive like a surgeon carving toward a tumor. Defense nodes and living guns snapped at them like teeth. The Dominion answered with fire. Railgun after railgun tore through armored flesh and bone. Graviton pulses made whole battalions fold inward and disappear. Still, the hive did not fall. From the walls, tendrils of energy lashed outward. They struck the Dominion's shields and slid along the hull like acid. Sparks rained inside the ship. Systems flickered. In the engineering bay, Chief Mechanic Daniel Voss cursed and worked the valves with hands that bled oil and sweat. Marines staged boarding runs through ruptured sections. Tossing themselves into the web of the hive to cut the threads, they moved. Like ants in a storm, small, fierce, and necessary. The Marines carved paths to junction nodes. Each node destroyed made the central mind flinch. Each node destroyed cost blood. The hive hit back where it hurt. It reached into minds. Crew members froze for a heartbeat and saw brief, bright and utterly wrong visions that were not theirs. Loved ones calling their names from burning homes. Voices promising safety if they surrendered. The ship's medics fought to hold the crew's will together. Neural dampeners saved people from the worst of it, but the attacks kept coming, clever and personal. On the bridge, the AI's voice sharpened, psychic wave rising, central mind increasing output. If allowed to continue, crew failure probability climbs exponentially. Kane's jaw set. Then we end it now. A. Tap the console. Bring the main cannon to full alignment. I want a direct shot into the chamber. If this is to be our last day, we make it count. No one warned him. Not to. No one stopped him. The Dominion had come too far for half measures. The main cannon warmed with a sound like thunder under glass. It drew power from core capacitors that had never been asked for so much. The ship flexed as energy pooled. Warnings screamed in red text across panels. Voss shouted that the core would not hold, but Kane had already made his choice. Charge. When ready, he said. Outside, the hive closed like a fist. Living armor shifted to meet them. The central mind flared, sending a scream of thought so sharp it made the lights flicker. Memory and fear and rage pressed against the Dominion like a tide fire, Kane said. The cannon released. The shot tore through space and the hive's flesh. It hit the central chamber with a soundless violence that felt like the end of the world. For a second, everything went black. The hull strained, sirens ululated. Then, like a held breath released, The hive began to fall apart. The central mind did not explode like a bomb. Burned. It unstitched itself from the threads and collapsed inward, its signals dissolving into static. Ships connected to it dropped from the sky like leaves. Psychic screams faded into nothing. For long seconds, the Dominion drifted in a silence that felt like a new kind of terror. Smoke filled corridors. Lights blinked slowly back to life. Men and women pressed hands to heads and whispered each other's names to make sure they were still there. They had done it. The mind was dead. The hive's systems failed and then shut down. Hundreds of enemy ships floated, disabled. For the first time since the invasion began, the Dominion's sensors found empty space where a great threat had lived. But victory had a price. Whole sections of the hive tore free and crashed into the Dominion. Boarding teams counted the living and the dead. Faces that had laughed at training drills lay quiet on the floor. Kane walked among them, touching shoulders, swallowing grief like fuel. Back on the bridge, the AI spoke softly. Central mind terminated. Secondary signals indicate enemy command collapse. Suggest immediate extraction and jump home. Warning: long-term effects of exposure to hive neurosignals unknown. Kane closed his eyes for a moment and then looked. At his crew, "We go home," he said. "We bring what we can. We survive." The Dominion limped away from the dying hive. The wreckage behind them glowed with fires that would burn for hours. In the void, pieces of technology and biology drifted half-formed weapons, broken dreams, and the husks of a mind that had tried to own a galaxy. On the way back, the crew worked in tired silence. Some prayed. Some did the only thing soldiers know how to do: fix what was broken and prepare for the next fight. Kane watched the stars and thought of Earth, still under the red sky. He thought of families that would never be made whole, and of a victory that felt too late for some. He also thought of the lesson the hive had taught them. The enemy was tenacious. The enemy adapted fast. Dominion had won a monstrous battle. Yes, but the galaxy had many corners. A shot had ended one mind. It had not ended all the minds that might want revenge. As the ship cleared the last of the hive's reach, and the wormhole glimmered ahead for the jump home, Kane allowed himself one small, private breath. He did not smile. He had no right to. But somewhere deep inside him, a fierce thing he had almost lost flickered back to life and gore. Yes, but also a stubborn, terrible hope. They had burned the heart of the hive. Now they would bring the news. Home, they would make Earth ready for a galaxy that would not forget the Dominion. They came home under a sky that still bled red. People cheered in the streets, but the cheers were thin around the edges. Fires still smoked in the distance. Broken buildings leaned like tired giants. The world had a new face now, a face carved by fear. The Dominion slipped through the clouds and into a waiting harbor of light. Fleets from every nation fell into formation to greet them. Ships that had sailed as rivals now sailed as one. Flags flew from decks and rooftops. Someone had sent up flares that cut bright lines across the red sky. The world wanted a miracle, and the Dominion had given them one. On the bridge, Captain Elias Kane watched it all. He felt the weight of hands that were not his, felt the names of people he had lost. He felt the ones who would never come home. Men cheered and clapped around him, but his hands were steady on the rail. He had not come back for praise. He had come back to a world that still burned. Crowds gathered at the landing site. Children who had only ever known fear pressed forward on their parents' shoulders. Old soldiers stood at the edge of the crowd and saluted. The Dominions. Ramp lowered. For a moment, the ship was a dark silhouette against the fireworks and the smoke and the bright,
cruel light of a world that had almost died.
Elias moved down the ramp first. He walked slow. People reached out to touch the hull, as if that could make the sky any less terrible. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Leaders hugged him like a soldier who had given his last breath for them. They called the Dominion a miracle. They called Elias a hero. Songs would be written. Statues would be carved. For tonight, all of that seemed possible. But inside the ship, the crew did not celebrate. They sorted through what remained. They counted bodies and supplies. They patched hull plates and rerouted broken lines. They cremated what could not be saved. Quiet work, quiet grief. The victory had cost them more than anyone wanted to measure. In a small data vault beneath the ship's medbay, a scientist named Mara unlocked a sealed rack. She laid out the files the Dominion had taken from the hive. Alien schematics, command, logs, sensor sweeps, a harvest of stolen knowledge that smelled like smoke and cold metal. They had expected treasures. They had expected secrets to turn the tide. They'd expected maps that would keep Earth safe for years. What they found was more terrifying. The alien data was not a single map. It was an entire gallery of targets. Hundreds of systems marked in a pattern that meant planning, meaning strategy. Red dots for worlds they had already consumed.
A yellow.
For systems under watch, and then like a nail driven into a board, a symbol that meant primary objective Earth. Elias looked at the screen until his eyes felt raw. The file showed not one fleet, but dozens. Fleets in slow arcs hidden behind, nebulae slipping through dark lanes. The hive had been one mind. It was not the only mind. These aren't notes of defeat, Mara said quietly. They are a roster. He turned to the AI screen. The calm face of the ship's program reflected back. Estimate of hostile forces, unknown. Known command. Structures, multiple. Probability of coordinated response. High. The bridge was full of sound. The world outside screamed with relief. Inside, a new silence settled. It was a heavy silence of things that had been seen and could not be unseen. At the reception that night, generals and diplomats toasted the Dominion. They promised treaties. They promised new fleets. They promised to rebuild what the invaders had broken. The headlines called it an end. The speeches called it a beginning. Elias did not drink. He moved through the crowds and watched faces brighten with hope. He watched children dance, let the hope wash over him like a thin, warm rain. And then he tucked it away. Hope was necessary. Hope would not stop what was coming. He met General Marcus Raines in a tent lit by floodlights. The general's face had new lines, scorched from nights without sleep. He clasped Elias' shoulder with a hard grip. "You ended the hive," Raines said. His voice had the small wonder of a man who had almost given up on miracles. "You gave us time to rebuild, time to prepare." Elias thought of the men who would not be there to hear those words. He thought of the Marines who had stood and fallen in hallways that were not theirs. "Time," he said. "That is all." That night, back aboard the Dominion, Elias walked alone to the bow. The ship rocked gently in the harbor. The red sky reflected on its black hull. He put his hand on the metal and felt the small, steady beat of the ship's heart. The data remained open in the vault. Mara had flagged certain files and sent them up the chain. Analysts worked through shift size. Bloodshot, fingers stained with ink and formulas. Alien schematics were cold logic and cruelty. They showed weapons and harvesters and methods of stripping a world until it could not give life back. One file, deeper than the others, had a different kind of content. It contained a list. Names of worlds, dates, codes, a tally of victories, and a timetable for future moves. Near the bottom, a notation in alien script had been translated into a single word that gave them all the feeling of a hand closing around their throats. First wave complete. The translation read, "Primary strike. Earth. Sequence follows across 73 systems." Elias read the line 3 times. He felt it settle into him like ice. The hive had been central, but not unique. The galaxy had plans, and Earth was high on the list. He could hear the celebrations from his quarters, could hear laughter and music and speeches being recorded for posterity, could also hear the small, sharp sound of machines in the ship's bay, repairs and rewrites and preparations. Outside, the red sky felt a little less like a wound and more like a stage light. People wanted to believe the worst was over. Leaders wanted to frame the victory like a final chapter. The Dominion's crew wanted to sleep, but sleep would be short. Elias called Mara to the bridge. She came with the file open on a tablet, held it, and did not look away. "What do we do with this?" he asked. Mara's voice was steady but small. "We tell them everything. We make them see. We make them build what we can't. We make arrangements. We start training children to fight in ways they never thought they would. We make allies across suns." Elias nodded. The plan was long. The night was longer. He thought of his crew and how tired they were. He thought of Earth and how fragile it now looked. He gave one last look at the red sky. Stars glittered beyond, cold and far. The Dominion would be ready to fight again. It had to be. There was no other choice. In the morning, the parades would resume. The cameras would find new heroes. The world would stitch itself together with laughter and mourning and speeches. But beneath the sewing, beneath the public joy, men in basements and in high towers would study alien designs and train people in new ways. They had won a terrible victory, had stopped one mind. They had burned a hive to ash, had saved a planet from immediate doom. They had not, Elias knew down to. His bones won the war. He closed the alien file and set it to broadcast. The screens across Earth would show what they had found. The humans would see the map, they would see the dots. They would see how small they were in a sky that had many hunters outside. The red sky did not change. It watched. It had nowhere to go. Elias stepped away from the rail. He did not look back. He walked toward the planning room and the tired faces of men and women who would fight for years. "We won a battle," he said to his crew as he entered. "But the war hasn't even started."